Okay, I'm gonna try this. Uh, oh, now that's too loud. I'm gonna try this to go over my notes for the bike riders real quick. There's a number of concerns I have that I'll go back on to go into my notes on the movie. The first thing for bike riders is without the accent and a number of the kind of psychological tics that the actors are really good at in this movie. They sound just like my parents, just because they were from that era in the 60s when they grew up, where everything was just almost completely different than what we live in now. This movie wants me to be, makes me feel like I want to be responsible and useful, because what they're doing here, they're just kind of drifters until they find something that they need. And then it's usually some kind of violence that would kick them out of the club. But that violence to kick them out would just be fists. So they keep asking, do you still want to leave, or do you still want to be in here in the club and ride with us? There was a respect for human life and those rules. And I'm getting attacked by all kinds of stereos outside. So it is strange how the club members are consider themselves bums, and I guess never did anything until a leadership challenge in the movie. No criminal activity or anything. The worst it got was you want to get salty, mother effer, and fist fight. And maybe they didn't carry guns that often, but they carried knives. And the clubs, the rival clubs and whatever, had mostly the fighting would start because of their drinking and dysfunction from their childhood or their whatever led them to get out there to be the motorcycle bums. And so they would stop fighting when someone would get injured. There was a rule or an unspoken line that they didn't want to cross. It was like the vigilantes, the superheroes. They have kind of a social contract. Like Batman is well known that he doesn't want to kill anybody, and so he's allowed. And the superheroes, that was a theme. All these superheroes came out of the 60s and 40s, and those themes are so diluted now. You don't see it as trying to replace it with woke and social justice and stuff, and it doesn't help. the entire theme was sort of your responsibility where you are at the moment. Um, so scroll out over here. Another good point of the movie is everyone looks different. These days, guys kind of all look the same. And you see the different faces here. And they all were more individual. They weren't all bros. They were just had individual thoughts. As they were motorcycle bums, they were constantly discussing their concerns, their individual stories. They didn't want to get into things that caused them harm in the past. And so they just kept drifting and trying to sort those things out. The acting is, my note here, the acting in this bar is subversive and hard to describe, but then I just did that. I don't know where it came from, but I just thought of that. My older note from last night was, it's like they've done this before. This is another page in the book. Never shows a progression of how they got that way. It is just part of that life, and you're just waiting for it to drop how they got there. This goes into another one. I was thinking, this overthinking the Karens might come up with to report you as violent when it's your concern and not theirs. This idea that in these people's lives before they became motorcycle bums, if someone is hurting, you should not listen because they'll make you as desperate as they are, and they manipulated you to think of yourself as wrong. This overthinking is that where Karens might come in and just report you that they think they're wrong, but it's their own male or female Karens. It's just their own revulsion, thinking of themselves as wrong. Stay in your lane when it's demanded you. No, not that one yet. These guys had memories to fall back on when they were younger. So they knew things were better. They were just wasting time and sorting their lives out. None of this is a good place to be for anybody. And in my note, I was wondering if this was a sequel to the movie, to a movie that I missed. Is how would they get to that point where they can just burn down a bar right in the scene and be feared enough that the cops can't mess with them when there's more than one. That was another scene in the movie If they're alone, then you can take them and manipulate them from there. But it's almost like the movie almost has no plot, just to showcase the acting from there. But then it did start burning things down, and when it did, is the one guy, Brucey, got a car backed into him and died because he was riding his bike, and it looked like he was just daydreaming. And when the car backed out and didn't see it, he could have hit the brake, or maybe the old bikes didn't slow down quick enough. Maybe that's it. But it looked like he had plenty of time to hit the brakes. But then the movie gets really crazy when they show that the veterans come in and want to kill everybody because of their addictions. They need to kick out the pot smokers. They wanted to change the drugs became really big, and we know now that it's mostly the government using the drugs to control everybody, whether it be antipsychotics or street drugs or whatever. The vets come back and they're hooked on the hard stuff from living a hard life, and well, they were more manipulated and allowed to do this. The older bike riders, there's nothing in the movie has shown how they became feared, except that they were motorcycle bums and they were not really hunters, but they were just a pack and an easy target when they're alone. And it is mostly that they were jealous of that image, and they didn't do anything before they were attacked, is what their perspective is. And again, if I say that, then Karen will say that I'm thinking of planning something. But it's what they're lost on is this idea: stay in your lane because it's demanded you have a cause, a demand for others to justify and apologize for your existence. Having a cause or a reason to go to the grocery store or something, you have is for others to justify, to allow you to be there. That this isn't right for the Karens and social justice woke. The grocery store is just there. You have to go buy food. You don't need a cause to apologize for your existence. But then you introduce all these other things that you do have to introduce. The communism takes a lot of that for the military stuff. That you have to justify your existence to be there. You have to be useful in some way. Where the older bike riders are just wandering to an extent and trying to find work out their differences, their own perspective, when there's nothing for them at home. That so they don't want to be manipulated into thinking themselves as wrong and overthink and then get caught up into that cycle, that same cycle that is more demanding that they have to be that way. Vets come in with no regard for human life because of the hard drugs and a more difficult life. The older bikers were just drifters alone, and they were the cowboys. They were alone, even in a room full of people, and they all looked different. The old guys apparently didn't even carry guns. So they have this cultural shift that happened to everyone in the 60s and 70s, that it became just like a parallel reality of violence just moved in, and we have to adjust and live that way. So the guy that wanted out, because he kept getting beat up, they shot him in the leg so he couldn't ride anymore. So he would be forced to go home, stay home. They don't want it to escalate, but they decide to take a stand and be who they are. And in this parallel reality that came in and shifted in. The one guy says, I don't want to do anything. I never asked anybody for anything, and it's never going to be me. I don't want the responsibility for all these things that people place on me, the overthinking, apologizing for your existence, and you're just waiting and try to avoid addictions that might make it worse. Whatever character that was, the James Dean looking guy, is constantly kind of, I think what he's thinking is, what addiction do I need to keep alive when everyone wants terrible things for me? And he's just waiting it out until his time is over. And there's just nothing else. What is it? I don't want to do anything. I didn't ask anybody for anything. And it's never going to be me to take responsibility for how these things are changing. So when he is actually challenged, it's fists or knives by those rules. So I get this movie, I understand what they're talking about. But then Tom Hardy, his next line is, you give everything you got for something. It's still going to do what it's going to do. Things are going to shift that way, and you can't really stop it. They put no, they newer members had the star of the show is a woman. She's speaking to some kind of reporter. They're going to make a documentary out of them or something. They the newer members bought her a dress and kind of coerced her into wearing that red dress, and they just stared at her and slowly started to just take her aside in another room, and Tom Hardy stopped them from raping her and disregarding her life. She said, if they were allowed to do that, who is going to look at her? Who is going to have value for her? And I know that. And the guys came in, they have no regard for human life. And the James Dean guy is what guys used to be in a fictional version of Outlaws Motorcycle Club, and they're calling it the Vandals, and they just weep to lose life the way it was, because they had memories when they were younger to fall back on. And so everybody's just wondering, what addiction do I need to keep alive when everyone wants terrible things for me? And they're just waiting for a way out. And whatever they did on the road is them sorting things out, I guess. I don't know if they did anything terrible on the road or not. It's not really shown. But a lot of their lives were violent. But they still had that regard for human life, that there was something of value. And there's just nothing there for everybody else. They never crossed the line. They're going to knife fight, or they're going to use fists until the other guy gives up. So maybe that the knife fighting and one of them dies or something, maybe that's that desperation that I was talking about. They and you just should never listen to someone when they are that way. They should not need to have to justify their existence in that way to use a knife and defend themselves. It goes into that they must have a cause instead of being just themselves and waiting for something better. You don't have to justify or apologize for your existence. But when it becomes violent, you have to be more useful to other people and their image, their responsibility. I guess. I don't know. Even the swearing was different. But that regard for human life, has been lost culturally. This makes this movie more commentary for what we're going through right now. To me, it's subtle how it attains that to me. But I'm out of ideas to talk on, so I'll just end it here, and I don't have an outro or anything. But thank you for taking the time to consider what I said.